Everybody, thanks so much for listening to Fire Breathing Rob. If you're listening to us for the first time, thanks so much. Please subscribe, like, and share this interview. We're trying to get it out to as many people as possible. We appreciate it. We have the wonderful and talented Yvonne on, and she is on with Dagger, and that is her last name. She is an artist. She's been on here before, and it's so nice to have both of them on. Yvonne's been really great to me. I really appreciate everything she said in the past interview, and we've talked off air about many things, so I appreciate you. So Yvonne Dagger and Dagger, it's like a double dagger. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
It's good to be here again, Rob. Really good to be here. Thank you for having us again. It's always great talking to you.
Oh, I'm just saying we're happy to have Dagger in the picture too. And hey, buddy, how are you? It's good to see you. Anyways, but Yvonne, while we're going into the interview, now we've talked in the last interview about Dagger and how he became artist. How did you become an artist?
Well, I've always really loved art all of my life. I actually started getting really involved in art and loving art of all forms when I was around 11 years old. And I had a really great art teacher back then, and it was very interesting to me. So I started painting back then, and took all kinds of art classes, and really loved it. So I started back in my, early teens to paint. And then I really, what happened was I continued painting, but I stopped painting when I got married and I had kids. Mm-hmm. But what happened was I started making these little cards for everyone in watercolor, and that was my form of expression and, creating at the time. But in college, I majored in fine arts. You can get down, Dagger, if you want. He's sitting up here next to me, but
see you, buddy.
I majored in fine arts, and I had my first solo show in college, and so it was great. It was a great thing for me to do. But it wasn't until my kids were in college that I really got serious about getting back into painting and doing all kinds of things. And so it was, I would say, around 20 years ago now, 25 years ago now, that I had my first show. It was a group show. It wasn't a solo show. But it was out in the Hamptons, and I sold out. I actually sold out. Wow. And then one of the galleries out there, out in Southampton, they took me on and represented me for about 12 years. And until she actually passed away and closed the gallery, they closed the gallery. And then since then, I've been represented out in West Hampton at Fitzgerald Gallery. And I guess I've been with them for, oh my goodness, it seems like forever, like 15 years ago, or maybe more, even more than that they've been representing me out there in West Hampton. And I've shown all over the Northeast. And I won some awards, the Prudential Wheeler Award. That was my first award that I won. And the Art of the Northeast I won. Mm-hmm. And then for so long, I tried so hard to have there's a magazine out in the Hamptons called Dan's Papers. And it's in New York City. It's in the Hamptons, and it's a real wonderful. Every cover is created by an artist, And to get a cover on Dan's papers is like the most exceptional thing, you know, for an artist. It's the greatest thing in the whole world. So I kept submitting works to them and submitting works, and then finally I got my first cover, and I've had 10 covers so far on Dan's papers. Yeah, and they write an artist interview, you know, about the artist and about the work, and what inspired you to paint what you did, and the cover. They've even commissioned me to paint certain covers for them. So it's really been a great ride as far as my art career goes. In fact, I'm in the my high school Hall of Fame. I've been recognized. I was recognized back in 2011 for my artistic endeavors and my charity, you know, giving to charity and fundraising.
So Yvonne, can you talk about, you know, I know you do a lot of painting of dogs right now. Can you talk about how that came about?
Of course, that's really, really great. I always wanted to, and since forever, paint everyday objects, like things that you see in the world in every day, you know, fruit, vegetables, still life, you know, seascapes, landscapes, this, so forth and so on. And I lost my first beagle back in the early 90s. And when I lost him, I had such a, it was such a touching, my heart broke actually when we lost him. His name was Melvin, and he was 7 years old. And our first dog we had for 18 years. Wow. So to have Melvin pass away at 7 years old was crushing to me. So I decided to get through my grief. You know, everyone grieves in different ways. Right. And so I decided that, well, maybe I should paint his portrait. So I did. I painted his portrait, and boy, I cried throughout the entire painting, which really helped me get through that grieving process. So, I mean, since then I've painted every one of the dogs that we've, you know, lost. But then I started getting involved in shelters. And where do dogs end up? They don't have a voice. Where do they end up? You know, do people really adopt them, or are they euthanized? What's going on? You know, so I started to get involved, and I started actually, you know, visiting different shelters, finding out about different dogs. Because we always adopted, we always saved a dog, rescued a dog. And so I started painting these shelter dogs. And I painted and painted and painted. I mean, I must have painted at least 20 paintings of shelter dogs in all different sizes. And these dogs, the reason I wanted to do this was mainly because they don't have a voice, but also because people who ask you to paint a portrait of their dog or a portrait of their children are usually people who are well off. You know, they have the money to spend. They can afford to do that, and they're in museums. They're if you look in any of the museums, the Met, there's portraits of kings and queens, and you know, and so I figured if I painted these shelter dogs, they then would have their portraits. And here this dog that may have been euthanized or may have never found their forever loving home, and here they're on a wall maybe of a museum or of a gallery somewhere. And so I guess my intent was to give them a higher place in the world rather than in a shelter. You know,
just to interrupt quickly, Yvonne, did that help these dogs get adopted though, the ones that you were painting?
You know, I many times I would go back and I would find out if certain dogs who really some of them didn't even have names, they just had numbers, and they would tell me that they got, they got adopted out, and then when I did check on them, they were euthanized. So it was sad. It was sad for me to hear that, and so I became very passionate about things like that, about rescues, and about where do rescues end up, and we've come a long way since I really did start to do this. But then all of a sudden, I don't know how, but Martha Stewart heard about my shelter dog paintings, and she decided to have one of her producers get in touch with me, and she put me on her website, because she also started to get involved in adopting and in shelters and things like that, and to keep more of a positive attitude about the whole thing. And so I was on her website for a long time, for at least 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and with my shelter dogs and cats. And so after that, I just decided, you know what? I really love doing this. I love painting dogs' portraits, animal portraits. So I decided to specialize in it, and I've been doing it for a while now.
You do give proceeds to different organizations. What made you come up with that idea? What made you come up with the not the companies, but the organizations rather, that you do give the money to?
Of course, it's, well, it just evolved. What happened was, I decided with my pet portraits, my sheltered dog portraits and cat portraits, that I would locate an organization, a shelter, that wanted to have me paint a portrait of a dog or a cat, and they would auction it off at an event that they were, would have. So I found, through a friend of mine, Canine Companions for Independence. And I decided that I was going to paint a very large painting for them of one of their dogs and a child standing next to the dog, for their center, for their new center at the time, which was back in like 2009, that they moved into their new center, out in Melville. I'm sorry, in Medford, New York,
Right.
on Long Island. And so I decided to do that. And ever since then, I've been giving, Dagger and I have been giving to charities. Dagger's life is giving to charities, and him being coined the do-good dog is really started because he started painting, and he started painting all these works of art, and I didn't know. I said, what are we going to do with all of these works of art? So we figured that if you made a donation to Canine Companions, which of course I became very passionate about then, that you would get a painting, that Dagger would paint you a painting. And so I have also painted other works of art, which they've had auctioned off at their various events, their gala event, and so forth and so on. And so I like to give back. I feel very blessed. I feel blessed having Dagger in my life, and all of these wonderful, pets that I have, and my family, my husband and my kids, my grandchildren. I just feel very blessed. So I feel that it's important for me to give back, in that way. And it's a way that I have, we always talk about your time, talent, and treasure, but this is my talent. So this is the way I can give back, through my talent.
So
Nice.
again, Yvonne Dagger, thanks so much for your time. Where can people find more about you? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or also your website if they want to buy this piece of art or they want you to
Sure.
paint something for them.
Well, you can go to, as I said before, DogVinci, DOGVINCI.com to order a commissioned painting, pet portrait. You can also go to, I have a Yvonne Dagger artist Facebook page, which you can go into as well. And a lot of times, you'll see more, more of me there. Yvonne Dagger Artist.com is also another area where you could see a wide variety of genre that I cover. Besides the pet portraits, I do paint a wide variety of other kinds of things too, as I mentioned before, everyday objects and landscapes and seascapes and things like that. So you can get a chance to take a look at that. Yeah.
And if you go on the Facebook page, there's always updated pictures of Dagger, his work, your work. So I know I
Yeah.
follow it and look at it on the regular in the morning when I get up. It usually pops up right away. So
Oh, it does. Wow. How
yeah.
interesting.
So go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a wonderful thing. No, the Facebook, every day we put a positive message on all of
Mhm.
Dagger's social media channels. I just feel as part of who I am too, and part of who Dagger is that, just to bring that good vibe to the world
Yeah.
every day is really needed, and to be positive and upbeat and uplifting and things like that. So we try to make it as fun as possible. The greatest thing, and I have to say this, and this has nothing to do with my artwork, but Dagger's, is that in the next, I would say maybe, it might be even before before Christmas, not before Hanukkah, unfortunately, but before Christmas, we are having puzzles made of Dagger's artwork.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, which is really going to be cool. I'm very excited about it, and we have them in the works right now. They're being produced, and so as soon as as soon as they become available, we'll start getting the word out about it. So
Well, it's
just
definitely something to look forward to.
yeah.
So I appreciate it. Yvonne Dagger here on Fire Breathing Rob. Yvonne, thanks so much for your time
Thank
and
you.
everything. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks so much. Take care.